everybody a very warm welcome to Fridays with Pinky. They say 1 week is a long time in politics, but even a longer time in lockdown. I simply can't remember what I weighed last week on Friday, but definitely was much less than what I weigh now. But let's talk about things that are interesting and fun, something that will really lift our spirits and we learn something too. So last week I spoke about the 7 Qs and spoke about IQ and EQ and LQ, which is my favorite Q. I just wanted to recap on the LQ once more. LQ is the likability quotient, and we like people who really make us feel the center of their world. Apparently Bill Clinton had this huge gift of making one person in the room feel they were the only person in the room. And that's something we can all do if we really want to try. And there's a wonderful story of Jenny Jerome, who was Winston Churchill's mother, and she happened to have dinner in 1 week with Disraeli and Gladstone when they were both standing for election to be the next Prime Minister of Britain. And she was asked by the media what she thought of both of them. And she said, when I was with Gladstone, I thought he was the cleverest man in the world. But when I was with Disraeli, I thought I was the cleverest woman in the world. They were both equally clever, but one obviously had the gift of making somebody else feel really good. And needless to say, Disraeli won the election. So now let's move on to the next quotient, communication quotient. Again, such an important quotient, and when I start thinking about it, there are so many facets to it. So we have written communication, so important. We know when people write to us, just the way they've used words make us feel good or bad. We have the non-verbal communication, which again is so very important. We don't talk enough about it sometimes, but 93% of communication is often non-verbal. And we know how people communicate non-verbally. They make us feel as if they're interested in us, they're warm, whether you believe in them. You can almost feel whether they have integrity, whether they're authentic, and those kind of communication leakages are very, very important. When you actually meet someone, you sometimes just feel you don't believe them, even though their words may sound as if they're really true. We have to remember that a great deal in communicating. And then we have verbal communication. Again, such a premium on good verbal communication. Our politicians are normally great communicators because they have a lot of practice and they have to really get people to listen. I think verbal communication is something that's really, really important. The one thing that so many people are afraid of is public speaking, and yet there's such a premium on hearing good speakers. So we have to remember how we can be better speakers, how clear is our message, are we really authentic? And finally, what I would like to mention is listening, which is such a big part of communication too, because you need to be a good listener to be able to communicate. I'd like to really end by naming someone who I think is really a fantastic communicator, both verbally and in the written form. I think she really takes the cake from everybody else, and that's Elif Shafak. Elif just speaks so eloquently each time from the heart, and every single time she speaks, it's also her voice. You really believe in her. Her message is heartfelt, it's full of passion, and it's for really being authentic. And of course, in terms of written word, there's no one like Elif. She is my favorite author and lifts all our spirits every time we read what she writes. So I hope we can all take some lessons from others and become better communicators.
Right, so here we go. I've got some lovely tomatoes, and look at this. These are fantastic, aren't they? Now, I've got to admit, they've been in the fridge for a little bit too long, so they're a little bit soft. Too soft to actually sort of put it in a salad, so I've decided to make a lovely roast tomato soup. And it's very simple. We're not going to complicate things because these tomatoes are so good in flavour, so we don't want to mess around with that flavour at all. So all we're going to do is put a little bit of garlic, a little bit of chopped onion and some basil in the end. And that's it, a bit of salt and pepper, and we're off. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to preheat your oven at 180, okay? That's the first thing you want to do. We're going to cut them, the bigger ones in quarters, the smaller ones in halves. colour. Look at these lovely ones. These are San Marzano tomatoes, and they're actually made for cooking. You eat them raw like this, actually not very nice, but for tomato sauces and for soups, fantastic. Yeah, we've got the tomatoes. A little bit closer. And don't they look delicious? So we're going to put a bit of olive oil. Pepper. I like the coarser pepper. Salt. Mix it up a little bit again. And we're going to stick them in a tray. This is just like a party, isn't it? Party in a tray, people. Right, and stick in the oven, yeah? Okay, meanwhile, we're going to stick on a pot here, chuck a bit of oil in. Don't be too shy actually. There we go. So as you can see, I've pre-chopped the onion, put it over there. A couple of cloves of garlic. Now I think I've put about 1 kilo of tomatoes, give or take. Probably a little bit more actually. So you're going to roast them until they get a little bit golden brown. Should take you anywhere between 25 minutes to 30 minutes. Okay, so we're just going to prep cooking the onion and the garlic. Once that's done, you can switch off the heat. Wait for the tomatoes. Onion. Do that first. Okay, so the idea is we're going to put the tomatoes in here with a little bit of stock, cook it for a little bit, not too long actually, because the tomatoes are soft already, right? So you just do what, 2-3 minutes and the whole thing just joins together nicely. Then we're going to blitz the whole thing up, and then last minute, just before serving, you tear up the basil, stick it inside, and don't be shy with the basil either, just stick it in there, give it a good stir, and ready to go. Right then, a little close-up going on. The tomatoes are ready. Ta-da! There we go. So we're going to put in the pot with the onion and the garlic. Whack up the heat. You can see it's about a small teaspoon of stock. It's a stock cube. The thing is, if you feel you need to add more, you can always do so at the end. So always advise, just take it easy with your stock and your salt and your pepper. You can always add at the end. Once you've ever done it, it's a lot more difficult to reverse it. As you can well understand. Done. Okay, taste test. Here we go. Good. Do a little bit more stock. Half teaspoon. Beautiful. Basil. I'd already taken it off the twig. Mix that in. If you're feeling a little bit naughty, you can add a little bit of creme fraiche when you serve it. I'm just going to keep it nice and pure like this. Alright, last but not least, hey, the soup. God, it's so good.